Okay, class, we're about ready to move into your stations for today. I want to go over your directions before I have you get up and move. First of all, Group 1, you will be in the Reading Center, so you'll do your independent reading. Group 2, you're going to be in small group with me at the horseshoe table. That will be Ben, Mindy, Dustin, Caitlin, Ryan, and Travis. We're going to be working on graphic organizers today, going along with story elements on the story that we read last week. Group 3, you will be at the computers working on your Read 180 program. Are there any questions about what I want you to do today? Okay, very quietly, I would like for you to get up and move to your station, and then I'll give you the signal when it's time to switch. We're going to revisit our story that we read last week, All the Years of Her Life. But first, before we get into today's lesson on looking at all the story elements, I want us to kind of review the story just to refresh your memory because we've had a weekend since then. So who can give me a real quick summary of the main events from this story, All the Years of Her Life? Okay, Dustin.
He worked at the store and he was leaving and he stole some toothpaste and some lipstick and a compact, and then the owner said that he's been doing it for a while and he's going to call the cops, but he called his mom, and his mom came to the store, and the clerk said that he couldn't come back to the store even if he was a customer. He couldn't come back in the store.
We've been studying story elements, and we're going to continue that today. I want to share this chart with you, and we'll be using this throughout our lesson. We're focusing on the beginning part of the story, the climax, which is the part of the story where it really makes a turnaround, and then the conclusion at the end of the story. We want to think about who the characters were, what was the theme of the story, a lesson that we can learn from it. And then we want to look at the setting. And remember, the setting has to do with the time and the place of the story. Now, you have your stories in front of you. And what I want us to do is actually fill in this chart. And we're going to act, it's kind of like a mountain. And so we're going to start here with the beginning of the story, and we'll lead up to the climax, and then we'll lead back down to the conclusion. I have some sticky notes placed up here. So we're going to put some of those main events that Dusty just shared with us on the sticky notes to kind of guide us through the story. But let's start with the setting of the story. Who can tell me the time that this story took place? Okay, Ryan?
At night.
And how do you know it was at night?
Because it said it in the story, he closed up for the night.
All right, read the sentence where it talked about night.
The drugstore was beginning to close for the night.
Good. The drugstore was beginning to close for the night, so we know that it's nighttime. All right, now we want to know the place. Mindy? The drugstore, and it was in that very same sentence. It gave us the time and the place in the same sentence, so the place would be the drugstore. Now, let's revisit the characters. Who were the characters in this story? Ben, give me one of the characters.
Alfred.
Okay, Alfred. All right, another character in the story. Ryan?
Mr. Sam Carl.
And who was he? Okay, Sam Carl, and he was the store owner. Caitlin, do you remember another character?
Miss Higgins.
And who was Miss Higgins?
Alfred's mom.
Okay, so I'm going to put Miss Higgins and the mom. Okay, now, what happened? We're going to start here at the bottom of the mountain, and we want to know what happened at the very beginning of the story. And the neat thing about this, I have it on sticky notes, so if we need to move some around, then that'll be okay. What happened at the very beginning? First thing that happened, Mindy?
He was closing up the store.
Okay, so let's put store is closing. All right, what happened after that? Next event. Ryan?
He put stuff in his pocket.
Who did?
Alfred.
Alfred took items. Okay, so that happened before the store closed. He had already stashed those things away in his pocket. All right, what happened after that? Okay, now we have the climax where Mr. Carl calls his mom. Now put yourself in Alfred's shoes. Ooh, yeah. Wouldn't you like for, I mean, Think about the mom, too. How do you think she felt about getting that call? Yeah. So if you put yourself in Alfred's shoes, imagine how he was feeling. All right, so Mr. Carl calls his mom. Then what happens?
His mom came out.
Okay, Mom came to the store. All right, then what happened?
His mom said that I'm glad to meet you at this time.
And how was Mom acting, though?
Really calm.
Yeah, she was calm and friendly. Ryan, do you think your mom would have been calm and friendly? I don't think my mom would have either. All right, so let's just put that down. Mom is calm and friendly. She's introducing herself to Mr. Carl. It's really not the reaction you would think of. All right, what happened after that? And what happened at the end of the story?
He said that when they got home, his mom told him to go to his bedroom, and he said that he better not say anything to his father about what he did today.
So what should we say about the conclusion of the story?
He really seen his mom for the first time.
Yeah, and the title of the story was All the Years of Her Life.
Because he never seen her for the very first time. He didn't see her how she really acted.
He felt like he really knew his mom for the first time, and he knew that he had hurt her. And he knew that he had really put her through some tough times. So, now let's think about the story elements. We kind of discussed them as we went. So what would you say? Well, we left out one, the theme of this story. What can we learn from this?
Not to do what you're not supposed to do.
No shit.
And what about, do our actions always just affect us?
Other people.
Okay, so our actions affect other people, so that could be the theme of our story. Our actions can hurt others. All right, now let's revisit our story elements. We have our characters here, Alfred, Sam Carl, and Mrs. Higgins. We have the setting. It took place at night in a drugstore. We know at the beginning of the story, Alfred was caught stealing items. At the end of the story, his mom has this really strange reaction in his eyes, and hopefully it's really going to change the future for him, and he's going to think twice about doing things, some of the things that he's done in the past. Now we're going to kind of look at a different type of organizer. This is called a story map. And this would be another form that we could put this in. Let's just talk about it. We said the setting was what?
The drugstore.
Drugstore at night. Remember, setting is always time and place. All right, and the characters were who?
Young Apple or Mr.
Alfred
Sam
Higgins.
Carl.
Okay, let's do one at a time. Give me one character.
Alfred Higgins.
Alfred Higgins. Give me another character. Mom and Mr. Carl, the store owner. Okay, and what was the problem here? Because sometimes they ask you for things in a little bit different form. What was the problem, Mindy?
That he stole from the drugstore.
Okay, he stole from the drugstore, obviously, where he worked. He had put lipstick and a compact and toothpaste into his pockets. Now, what was the goal in this story? The goal. Think about that a second before you speak. Okay, what's the goal? Who has an idea? What do you think, Dustin?
Where like he was trying to get away without nobody knowing.
Well, that was his goal. His goal was to not get caught. You know, sometimes that's what we think. We think, okay, if I can just get by with this. Okay, but that was his goal. But what was Mr. Carl's goal?
He was going to call the police and let him not go.
Well, and his goal was to keep people from stealing from his store, right? Okay, he didn't want that to happen again. And plus, probably deep down, he was wanting to help Alfred become a better person. All right, and we've talked about all these events that led up to that, so I don't think you would have any problems listing those. And then in the end, the conclusion is sometimes also called the resolution. So I wanted to show you this different organizer because a lot of times you'll see different terms. They mean the same thing. It may say conclusion, but it also means resolution. We talk about climax, and that's the main part of the story, but it could also be the problem in the story where it makes the turnaround. All right, one other organizer we're going to use today that you guys are going to work with independently. This is called a closed passage. Now, we just went through all of the elements of the story, and you guys seem to remember it very well from last week. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you out a piece of paper that looks exactly like what I have up here on the chart. It's asking you for those same things. Where does the story take place? Who are the characters? What's the problem in the story? How does it end? And your job is just to fill in with things from the story. I also have highlighters on the table. Before you take the time to fill out the closed passage, I want you to go through, take a highlighter, and I want you to highlight the story elements. I want you to highlight the characters, the setting, the problem in the story, the resolution of the story. Did I say all of them? Highlight all those things so that when you go to fill out your closed passage, it'll be easy for you to find those in the text. Okay. Go ahead, highlight the, let's start with the setting. Go ahead and highlight setting. Okay, now I want you to highlight, and you might want to take another color, highlight the names of all the characters and maybe who they are. So you want to tell, for example, like Alfred, he's the young teenage boy. Highlight the characters and who they are. All right, now let's find the problem in the story. What's the problem? Right there. It talks about where this is. Okay, and then highlight the resolution or the ending. Okay. Does everybody have all those things highlighted? All right. Yes. The theme of the story on this last page here, where it talks about the lesson that he learned from seeing his mom. Okay, so you're going to take this closed passage and you're going to fill this in using some of the information that you highlighted in our discussion today, and it's focusing on those same story elements that we've been talking about for the past few days. Read carefully. If you get stuck, just raise your hand and I'll be here to help you. Okay, guys, look at me for just a second. Now I want you to think about what we've done today. We went through the whole lesson and we talked about all of the elements of a story, and then I asked you to do it. It was easier to understand once we had gone through the story and we discussed it as a group and we all gave our input and worked together as a team. The purpose behind this lesson was to show how to use graphic organizers with an intervention class and how to use them effectively, because graphic organizers are highly researched and they've proved to be very effective with students and even for the students to use independently. But teachers make a lot of common mistakes when using graphic organizers. One of the most common mistakes that teachers make would be forgetting to model. And with especially intervention groups, that is very, very important. In any classroom, it's important, but when you're dealing with struggling readers, it's very important that it's a part of your lesson where you spend some time modeling the strategy, going over it with them, and then being there by their side to support them when they have questions. After spending this lesson going over the elements where I just walked away and reviewing the story organizer with them that they had read previously, they were able to fill out the closed passage with no problem. So going to a workshop and learning how to do all the graphic organizers is wonderful, but we have to remember the explicit teaching model where the teacher models in the beginning, spends some time supporting the students, and then moves on in the end to where the students are able to work independently.